हेलो। हेलो। आवाज आ रही है?
स्टॉक शेयर करूँ मेरे साथ।
बोल तो
हेलो, मेरी आ रही है शर्मे?
हाँ, परफेक्ट आ रही है।
ठीक है।
Can you turn that off?
They should have vetted George Santos the same way that each party vets the other side's candidate. So.
Okay, now share screen. Pick that screen, share it, turn that off.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Sir, I would like to give a small introduction about our event to our audience. Can I?
Yes, I will meanwhile be trying to set up the slides, if that's all right.
Okay, sir, then I'll start now. Your screen is completely visible. Give me few minutes, I will intro our event. So here we go. Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all in the Taleidoscope segment of Footprints 23. Footprints is a national level technical event held in our college since 22 years, and this year it has entered 23rd edition. So Taleidoscope is a segment where which is rejuvenated after 5 years, which comes under the Kaleidoscope segment. The guests are the ones who cannot be a part of the event on day. That guests we are calling from all over the globe to live to make a positive impact in the lives of students, engineering students, I say. We are thanking our university for supporting for this event since this. I would like to present launch video for our Footprints 23. So here we go. Sir, I am sharing the screen for 5 minutes. Hello.
Hello, I'm still trying to figure this out because it's somehow not working the same as it was before. Let's see. Let's go back to here.
Hello. Sir, I am sharing the screen. That's why you are not able to share the screen.
Oh, okay. I'll wait until you're done then, and then I'll try to set it up.
Okay, sir. So that was our launch video for this year edition. We are thanking our title sponsor Matrix Cosmac, our co-sponsor Global Colines, and our associate sponsor KYB Conmat. So now I am presenting the Global Colines 2 minutes video.
Welcome to Global Colliance. Are you looking for study abroad and you want to go to country that offers wide variety of experiences? Canada might just be the perfect fit for you. Do you know that Canada is renowned across the world for academic excellence and offers ample research opportunities? The expense of education in Canada is very affordable and comes under economy. It provides vibrant and lively campus life, immense immigration opportunities, and makes it easier to earn while you learn. Canada is a safe and peaceful country with cultural diversity and vibrant and lively campus. That's why students from across the globe choose Canada, as it is the #1 chosen destination by students. Our expert and experienced counselors will guide you throughout your admission process for Canada, from choosing course and university till your accommodations. Global Colliance has a students alumni network in Canada and have good student network there. So what are you waiting for? Start your study abroad with Global Colliance today. Welcome to
Okay, sir. That was it. And our first guest lecture is Amory Lovins, sir. Thank you for being a part of Footprints 23. Sir, now I have given the access to you, sir. Now we can start.
Okay, let me try this. So let's see. I first need to share screen. And then attempt to start that. And then attempt to find my presenter notes, which have gone away. So there we go. Okay. This looks like it might work. Good. So good morning, all, and thank you for the honor of weaving you a little tapestry of energy surprises.
Sir,
Each
I
of
can.
you.
Hello, sir. Sorry to interrupt. I can only watch your desktop. Are you sharing the presentation or? something?
Yes, I am. What are you seeing?
Your desktop.
My notes? You're
No,
not
sir.
seeing slides?
No, sir.
That's why I wanted to test this earlier. Let me go back to the original slide. Do you now see a large blue logo?
Sir, can you please reshare it so we can have?
I will have to start over again. I was sharing it. Let's see. So if I go back to, well, now I've lost all the Zoom controls. There they are. Share screen. Desktop 2, share.
Yes, sir, it is visible now.
Now you see the blue logo.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me now try to get my notes. Do you still see the title slide?
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay. Well, let's try that again. Each of the supposed barriers successively claimed to achieving a secure, affordable, climate-safe energy system to power national development is an artifact of siloed thinking. And each barrier dissolves when we enlarge the system boundary, when we make the problem bigger. General, later President Dwight Eisenhower wisely advised us to make tough problems soluble by expanding their boundaries to encompass more options and more synergies so that they include everything the solution requires. Thus, it's easier to solve the car and electricity problems together than separately. All four energy-using sectors, mobility, buildings, industry, and electricity, save more energy faster together than separately. All four kinds of innovation, not just technology, but also design, not only public policy, but also new financial tools and business strategies, can combine to create deeply disruptive game changers, whilst the old industries are still pulling on their boots. A little history. Around 1975, United States government and industry all said that the energy needed to make $1 of GDP could never go down. A year later, I heretically suggested that it could drop 72% in the next 50 years. So far, it's dropped 61% in 46 years, and with 28 times more cumulative impact than the growth in renewables, which have doubled. Renewables get virtually all the headlines because they're visible. You can see them on the rooftop and the skyline. But energy is invisible, and the energy you don't use is almost unimaginable. The International Energy Agency says saved energy has delivered half the world's decarbonization in the past 20 years. IPCC says it can deliver 40 to 70% of future decarbonization. But today's conversation is nearly all about supply, so it leaves out half the solution. We often suppose that energy efficiency is stodgy and static, yet just its innovations already added by 2010, shown in magenta, can save another threefold, twice what I originally thought, at a third the real cost. And today, even that looks conservative, because optimizing buildings, vehicles, equipment, and factories as whole systems, not as piles of little parts, can often make very big energy savings cost less than small or no savings, turning diminishing returns into increasing returns. I'll now illustrate with some examples from diverse uses and sectors how integrative design, vigorously applied in the kinds of examples shown, could roughly quintuple global energy efficiency or productivity over the coming decades, and probably even more than that in India. That's just a global average. Now, this basic paper explains why making energy savings several-fold bigger can actually cost less, because it uses not more but fewer devices, and not fancier but simpler devices, more artfully chosen, combined, timed, and sequenced. We're used to resources like copper ore bodies and oil reservoirs, finite and depletable assemblages of atoms. But energy efficiency resources are infinitely expandable assemblages of ideas, depleting only stupidity, a very abundant resource, maybe an increasing resource. Let me give you a few examples. I'm talking to you from my house, office, and farm in a near Himalayan climate. I live 2,200 meters up in the Rocky Mountains near Aspen, Colorado, where the temperatures used to dip as low as minus 44 Celsius, and we have seen 39 days of continuous midwinter cloud. And yet this house does no combustion. That's so 20th century. Super insulation, ventilation, heat recovery, and big super windows insulating like 16 or even 22 sheets of glass, but looking like 2 and costing less than 3, make this house 99% passive solar heated, 1% active solar. Super efficiency added less construction cost than eliminating the heating system subtracted. So we further saved 99% of the space and water heating energy, 90% of the household electricity, and half the water, and all the savings paid for themselves in the first 10 months after 1983. Today's technologies are much better and cheaper. The central atrium behind me, I'm afraid it's night here, so it's hard to see, is seen in this photo in a February snowstorm. And so far it has produced 80 passive solar banana crops. Someone said I had really big earphones. Our house has helped inspire several 100,000 European passive buildings with, like ours, no heating and roughly normal construction cost, and no cooling either. An integrative design gives many benefits from each expenditure. So the white arch behind me that's at the top of the upper middle photograph has 12 different functions, but it has only one cost. An integrative design can work anywhere. Soon after we built this house, an architect from Thailand, Professor Suntong Bunyatakarn, visited this house and decided to adapt its integrative design approach to his own 350 square meter home that he was building in Bangkok. He saved 84% of the air conditioning capacity, 90% of the air conditioning energy, with normal construction cost and better comfort. And nearly everyone in the world lives in a climate somewhere between his and mine. Integrative design let our Empire State Building retrofit, that is fixing up an old building, save 38, later 43% of its energy with a 3-year payback. 3 years later, our cost-effective retrofit saved 70% in making this half-century-old government building more efficient than what was then the best new US office, which in turn is only a third as efficient as Rocky Mountain Institute's net positive, no mechanicals, passive office 10 minutes from where I sit. This building in southern Germany reportedly uses 2/5 less energy still. So you can follow the reduced energy intensity in the green figures, the reduction in the yellow figures from the starting point. And yet all these technologies existed 2 decades ago. What mainly improved is not so much technology as design, the way we put the pieces together. Likewise, in India, Rohan Parikh's team built 15 lakh square meters of offices using 80% less energy than normal, with 10 or 20% lower construction cost, yet superior comfort and satisfaction. Glare-free lighting is achieved throughout by contract. If workers complain of glare and demand blinds, then the architect doesn't get paid. You might wonder why the building on the left looks as if it had been turned upside down, That's because the extra structural investment to support that shape cost less than the mechanical systems that were saved by the self-shading of building it upside down. IPCC reported decade-old data showing that the best European new buildings on the left and retrofits on the right, with bigger savings toward the right in both graphs and cheaper savings toward the bottom, could save up to at least 90% of their energy use without costing more per unit of saved energy. So even such huge savings in diverse new and old buildings could be very cheap, nearly down on the horizontal axis. The big vertical cost scatter in these graphs shows the business opportunity to conform inferior projects to best practices, because whatever exists is possible. I mentioned the RMI building 10 minutes from here. It's one of the 20 most efficient commercial buildings in North America, and it's the most efficient in the 2 coldest climate zones. It keeps people cool by 11 and warm by 10 passive methods, including hyper chairs whose built-in 4 watts of silent fans and 14 watts of electric car seat heaters can ensure ASHRAE comfort if the room is between 18 and 30 Celsius, although in fact it's within a degree or two of 21. My favorite part of this building is the 25 square meter Nega Mechanicals room, where I want to go in some night and outline on the floor industrial yellow tape like bodies at a crime scene where the boilers and chillers were supposed to go before we designed them out. We expect this building's cost premium and under 4-year payback to drop to about 0 with wider experience, just as Germany's best passive buildings have already done. Now, as the earth warms and incomes rise, new urban air conditioners could overwhelm power grids and capital budgets. So RMI, Mission Innovation, and the government of India launched the Global Cooling Prize, which at least quintupled the efficiency of the best affordable window air conditioners. The 2 winning firms have a path to market because their combined world market share is already 1/4. But there's an even simpler way. Good design can first displace refrigerative cooling. For example, these mid-rise apartments designed by the architect Irar Thandani use passive convectively vented double walls and super efficient ceiling fans to keep you feeling 16 to 19 Celsius degrees cooler at just 2% higher construction cost. With a few further refinements, they could deliver decent comfort with no air conditioning. And proven techniques can profitably at least treble, probably quintuple, the efficiency of the conventional cooling systems in big commercial buildings. Now, these flats built around Mumbai proved popular partly because of the extra storage space, which in the section drawings at the upper right of both diagrams is shown in gray between the walls, and also because the inner wall would stay dry and mold-free throughout the monsoon. And the great Indian architect Karan Grover tells me that various traditional methods of passive cooling can actually achieve similar results in all the climates across India, keeping you feeling 11 or 12 Celsius degrees cooler, and then add another 3 to 5 degrees of comfort range from a good cooling fan. Now, the big buildings of mechanical systems can be profitably retrofitted, as I mentioned, to at least trebled efficiency, but they may just have become obsolete because of a revolutionary experiment almost 4 years ago. Purely radiative cooling kept people comfortable outdoors in sweltering Singapore without moving or drying or cooling the air. Instead, in a shaded but open-ended pavilion, rather like a bus stop shelter, people were cooled just by absorbing far infrared radiation from their bodies into vertical panels slightly cooled by water and shielded from the humid air by thin plastic film. So even at 80% relative humidity, radiant temperatures around 23 to 25 Celsius in the panel can keep you feeling comfortable in air up to at least 32 degrees. Such mild cooling as 23 to 25 degrees can often be done passively with no electricity by special surfaces that radiate infrared into the sky and therefore feel cool to the touch whilst they're sitting in the midday sun. What about inside the buildings? Home appliances. Well, this fist-size Swiss heat pump can deliver 6 to 15 units of hot water per unit of electricity. This dramatically more efficient, safe, and superior Swiss electric cooking system uses vacuum-insulated pots and about 5 other innovations to cook with 2.5 to 4+ times less electricity than induction cooktops. And such techniques make it much easier and cheaper to switch buildings from gas or bottled gas to electricity. Now, industry uses half the world's energy and electricity. RMI's latest $60+ billion worth of industrial redesigns typically found 30 to 60% energy savings on retrofit, paying back in a few years, and far outperforming the orange zone in the upper left, where most energy service companies deliver disintegrated design. Or in new industrial projects, integrated design generally yielded 40 to 90+% energy savings with lower than normal capital cost. We rethought the process design, and we found big savings in traditional but often poorly designed auxiliary systems like pumps, fans, motors. So most electricity runs motors, half the motor power runs pumps and fans. But just better pipe and duct design can save about 80 to 90% of the friction and therefore of the pump and fan power. If this were done everywhere, it could save about 1/5 of the world's electricity or half the coal-fired electricity, and you'd recover your investment typically in less than a year in retrofit and instantly in new build. But this is not yet in any standard engineering textbook, official study, industry forecast, or climate model. Why not? Because it's not a technology, it's a design method. And few people yet think of design as a way to scale rapid change. To wring out friction, we simply use big pipes and small pumps, not small pipes and big pumps. And notice we raise the little blue pump on the right up to the level of the pipe instead of dipping the pipe down to the pump on the floor and back up again. So we got rid of 4 elbows, therefore friction. We also, to eliminate more elbows and more friction, we lay out the pipes first, then the equipment, laying out supply pipes as if they were drains. We bend mines, not pipes. Thus, our colleague Peter Rumsey's retrofit of a California museum's condenser water pumping loop cut the pumping energy by 3/4 with a 2 or 3 month payback. And that'll also eliminated 15 pumps that will never again waste energy and maintenance costs. Nega pumps are the best kind. Then he repiped the chilled water loop and added variable frequency drives, doubling the flow and saving 85% of the energy. Or in big buildings, normally we pipe the cooling tower water back to the chiller's condenser like this. But what if we lay it out this way instead, as Peter does? Then everything gets better. Why don't we all do this? Just force of habit. What does such savings mean for the 3/5 of global electricity that's used in motors, have to run pumps and fans? Well, in a typical pumping system, from the fuel burnt in the power station to the end use, many successive losses compound. So only 1/10 of the energy in the fuel comes out the pipe as flow. But now turn those compounding losses round backwards from right to left, they become compounding savings. And every unit of flow or friction you save in the pipe saves 10 units of fuel, cost, emissions, and global weirding back at the power station. And as you go back upstream, the components get smaller and cheaper, so the total capital cost goes down. This also unlocks drive system savings that raise the potential savings to about a third of the world's electricity. And again, this is not yet in any standard engineering textbook, but it should be. Now, we can also save industrial energy by saving the very energy-intensive materials that industry makes. 2 papers last year showed how smarter structural design can profitably save at least half the world's cement and steel that now release 15% of global CO2. For example, substituting tension for compression structures typically looks better, costs less, and uses only 1/8 as many tons. Pouring concrete into curvy fabric forms, not rigid prismatic forms, can often save over half the concrete by putting strength and stiffness only where they're needed. And then the weight savings compound because you need less strength to hold up less weight. An airy 3D printed bridge can carry mainly its users, whilst massive concrete structures support mainly their own weight. There's a beautiful stainless steel bridge that was 3D printed. And most importantly, floor slabs are about half the total weight of a typical mid or high-rise building. But a 5-centimeter thick folded concrete floor slab, like corrugated cardboard, or a shallow vaulted dome can replace a 30-centimeter thick flat slab. It costs less, it saves 3/4 of the cement, and it saves all the steel. Then using thin floor slabs, a new building could save a further 15% of core structural materials and 3/4 of the energy, whilst increasing net rentable space per unit height and footprint by a stunning 55%. You can see how on the left, it's called the 3-for-2 concept. It designs out a meter or so of vertical space for the mechanical plenum at each story. So 3 stories with the same normal 2.8 meter ceiling height fit into the vertical space previously needed for 2 stories, as in the example on the upper right in Singapore. So cost, complexity, and time fall dramatically. Everything gets better. Why would you ever want to build the old way? Now, even without integrative design, US electricity use could shrink by 1/4 by 2050, despite all electric automobiles and a 2.6-fold bigger economy. Quadrupled electric efficiency would save kilowatt hours at an average cost just 1/10 their retail price. So we didn't buy nearly enough efficiency in this study. And this could save most of the time, cost, hassle, and risk of installing renewable electricity, whose well-publicized challenges at scale are largely artifacts of exaggerated demand. Now, India probably has an even greater percentage saving potential than the United States. And since India builds the world's lowest cost solar power, that could make a very powerful combination. This in turn could save much of the enormous capital used by the power sector, freeing up enormous investment to fund other national development needs. Now, efficiency is most vital for the nearly 3/4 of a billion people with no electricity, but little prospect of getting or affording grid power on a typical family income of $2 a day or less. So they use kerosene or paraffin lamps that kill 4 million people a year. They would rank 8th among nations in carbon emissions, and they burn about $38 billion worth of kerosene a year. 1/5 of global lighting's total cost to deliver very inefficiently just 1/1000th of the world's light. But now we can banish darkness so daughters and sons can learn to read. An entrepreneurial village woman can sell or lease you an integrated photovoltaic, lithium battery, and smart chip lighting package like this Dutch Waka Waka, which gives you very bright light or a bit less in several divisions, lasting anywhere up to about 15 hours for an hour in the sun. And you can carry it in your pocket. You can put it on a soft drink bottle. You can hang it from the roof or from a tree. And it pays back in weeks to months against the kerosene lantern. And it can be microfinanced by scratch cards or via the smartphone that it recharges with the little USB port on the side. So eliminating kerosene is like a perpetual annuity equal to a month's extra income each year for that household. To give those girls more time to study, smarter pots could be at least as important as better cook stoves, and perhaps culturally easier too, but they're scarcely on the agenda. People work on the stoves very well, but not so much on the pots. Many of these proven improvements could be adapted by ingenious local metalsmiths to local skills and needs, designed cleanably and durably and integrated with the stoves. And if you put together all the options for better cooking, you may be able to cut cooking energy by at least an order of magnitude before using solar power or solar heat. Another example of efficiency to empower rural development is in agriculture. Irrigation pumping withdraws about 90% of India's water with electric pumps that use nearly a fifth of the electricity. A connected load officially 100 gigawatts, but actually perhaps 150, plus even worse diesel pumps that devour 60% of farm income and $3 billion a year in foreign exchange. But what if we start at the root of the problem, at the root of the plant? Well, Indian field trials have shown how end-to-end redesign can improve electricity to delivered root water efficiency by at least a factor 5. Take pumping off the grid, feed surplus solar power back into the grid, help make the discom solvent, and eliminate the $10 billion a year subsidy. All these pieces already exist, some assembly required. Maybe that's your job. This 27-watt electric household, even including a 56-centimeter color television, needs a solar panel 1/3 smaller than the one shown in the picture, and it cuts the total investment in half. More broadly, if you invest to make things that save electricity rather than supplying more, you need roughly 1,000-fold less capital, and you get it back 10 times faster. So you need on the order of 10,000 times less capital for the most capital-intensive sector, electricity, which devours about 1/4 of global development capital. As I suggested earlier, freeing up that capital to fund other development needs for India's future is the biggest macroeconomic lever we know for fair global development. Let me turn now to mobility. And here I won't be dealing with the 2- and 3-wheelers that are so important in your country, but let me look ahead to 4-wheelers, because integrative design can also make autos several-fold more efficient even before they're electrified. That makes their electrification faster and cheaper. You see, most of the energy needed to move a car is caused by its weight, and saving 1 unit of energy at the wheels leverages another 4 or 5 units of fuel saved in the tank. So I drive this carbon fiber electric car made in Germany. It was profitable from the first unit sold 9 years ago. That's because its carbon fiber that makes it so light was paid for by needing fewer batteries to propel the lighter weight car. And then fewer batteries recharge faster, using less electricity and less infrastructure needing investment. The saved weight also snowballs spectacularly. Assembling this car saves 2/3 of the normal capital and water and half the energy, space, and time. It eliminates the 2 toughest parts of making the car. It's much better for the workers, and the quadrupled efficiency to less than 2 liters equivalent per 100 kilometers comes without compromise and with many driver advantages. Thoroughly applying this design logic could save up to about 2/3 of the scarce battery minerals as well, and 5 other multiplicative kinds of efficiency could save the rest of those minerals. Now, BMW finished producing this model last June, but Bloomberg New Energy Finance reports that China's strategy for its 2030 flagship cars includes carbon fiber structures that will displace 4/5 of their steel. I wonder if India is planning that. Should be. Now, next come two hypercars planned to enter the market early this year, both from firms that I advise. Most drivers will not need to recharge this crash-worthy composite two-seat three-wheeler or this Dutch five-seat four-wheeler because they have on top, respectively, 3 and 5 square meters of solar cells, capturing enough energy for ordinarily daily driving without recharging. And that's because these cars are 2 or 3 times more efficient than the Tesla that my wife drives. So these aim to bypass the charging infrastructure for ordinary daily driving. They get the equivalent of less than 0.7 and 0.9 liters per 100 kilometers, respectively. The same physics and the same business logic also apply to heavy transport, heavy lorries, planes, ships. The best 2008 technology could profitably make heavy lorries 2 to 4 times more efficient. And that plus the 3 to 5-fold more efficient airplanes designed a decade ago at Boeing and NASA and MIT could move nearly $1 trillion net present value from oil owners' top line to Americans' pockets, and of course, similarly in India, and help get the world off oil. But that was a while ago. How about now? Well, Tesla's battery electric heavy lorry is being customer tested now. Mass production was postponed from last year to this year so that battery and car production can catch up. But it could grow very quickly. It'll more than treble efficiency with 40% sleeker aerodynamics, lightweighting that offsets the battery weight, and a 2-year US payback. That's against low US fuel prices, and that's at the old pre-war diesel price. And this flight-tested air taxi from California could fly nonstop from Delhi to Berlin with 1/8 the fuel and 1/8 the operating cost of a normal business jet. That's without electrification. A bigger unit that they've already designed could hold well over 20 seats, ideal for emerging point-to-point route architectures. I think this sort of incredible aerodynamics looks set to blow up aviation's business models. And the concept appears scalable well beyond regional jet size. And super efficient electric and hydrogen airplanes are now expected to enter the market in this decade. Now we can contemplate even higher efficiencies emerging from polymer lattice and membrane structures that can make metal wings and other aerostructures 98% lighter and yet cheaper, tougher, and aerodynamically self-optimizing like a bird's wing. Smart policies and strong commercial ambitions in both India and China are helping to drive a global revolution in making mobility shared, connected, and electric, and designing our cities so more people are already where they want to be and needn't go somewhere else. Non-automotive mobility is improving too, like bus rapid transit, which transformed the Anjol Street on the left to the street on the right, same street, whilst carrying 800,000 riders a day. It can achieve subway route density at 5% the cost of a subway, and it now carries more than 30 million commuters in nearly 200 cities. China also has over 200 million electric bicycles, and at the end of 2021, Shenzhen had 100% electric buses and taxis, 62% electric delivery vehicles, soon to be 100%. So that city of 13 million people had more electric buses than the top 5 American urban bus systems had total buses. And urban design is changing too. China plans in the next 15 years to build new cities for as many people as America has. And so far it's designed cities around cars with an arterial vehicle network and 14-lane boulevards you can't get across. But integrating and distributing where people live, work, shop, play, and pray means that people don't need to travel far nor by car. Adopting instead a capillary web designed around feet, not tires, means 2/3 less driving, 1/3 less concrete, It builds a human ecology with vibrant commerce, rich social life, but better or equal throughput, cleaner air, happier citizens. The 53 cities already doing this, and more to come, will use little oil. They'll have cleaner air and healthier people. So in total, the oil and gas reserves unsellable for competitive reasons look bigger than the reserves unburnable for climate reasons, putting oil owners even more at risk from market competition than from climate regulation. The cost of getting automobiles completely off oil fell from $18 per say barrel a decade ago to less than $7 today, heading below zero in the next few years. So oil already became uncompetitive even at low prices before it became unavailable even at high prices. So that's the quick oil story. The other big energy story, electricity, is similar, but it's moving even faster. We're shifting from molecules and atoms to bits and packets, from hardware to software, from hierarchies to networks. Electricity is changing from centralized, supply-focused, fossil and uranium-fueled and brittle, to distributed, customer-focused, renewable, and resilient. It's starting to become decarbonized, decentralized, digitized, and democratized. And as Jeff Bladen said, we're shifting from forecasting demand and scheduling supply to forecasting supply, renewable supply, and scheduling demand. The deepest change is how the information age informs, enables, and organizes customers to take power into their own hands. You know, it's wise to sell customers what they want before someone else does. And customers are figuring out they can buy far fewer electrons, use them more productively and timely, produce their own, and even trade them online with each other. And the competition isn't only between different generators, but also with an even cheaper rival, more efficient use. As with fuel, so with electricity. Technology and design are both moving efficiency into fast forward. So prior lighting improvements were rapidly swept away as LEDs in a decade got 30 times more efficient, 20 times brighter, 10 times cheaper. And the most impressive example is India's rapid deployment of LEDs via EESL. Ultimately, LEDs will save about an eighth of the world's electricity. Dramatic savings are available in most other uses. For example, IT efficiency is offsetting the world's growth in computing. What else changes this fast? Well, the rest of the energy transformation, modern renewables. LEDs backwards are PVs, photovoltaics. Instead of changing electricity into light, they change light into electricity. So PV and aqua wind power costs have plunged below the dash lines. That's the cost of fossil fuels fed into US thermal power stations. So our old coal and gas and nuclear plants have often become uneconomic just to run. And in fact, this past year, for the first time in about 60 years, US renewables made more electricity than coal or nuclear plants. Indeed, powerful disruptors are converging on the electricity industry from at least 8 directions. And these 8 Pac-Men of the apocalypse move fast. They don't just add, they exponentiate. They're not lone wolves, they hunt in packs. They multiply quickly, and they can gobble up half of utility revenues in this decade. Together, they're creating an alien competitive landscape faster than most utility cultures can cope. 8 years ago, all central power stations were called dinosaurs. Too big, too inflexible, not even relevant for backup power in the long run. Who do you suppose said that? It wasn't Greenpeace. It was Union Bank of Switzerland. And now a whole new wave of Pac-Men is coming over the hill. The Paris Agreement's 1.5 degree aspirational goal, now the core Glasgow goal, would require closing a coal station every day to 2040, and virtually all of them in the world by 2050. And yet the new market prices of renewables now make this profitable without counting the benefits of mitigation. So a few years ago, analyzing 95% of the global fleet revealed that using efficiently structured financial instruments could close and replace all the coal plants immediately with modern renewables, including battery storage. And if you actually did that immediately, hypothetically, it would take a while, that would be cost neutral in 2 years, that is by now, and it would save over $100 billion a year by 2025. I believe it's $15 billion a year in India alone. And some of the biggest benefits would be in China and India, shown in the middle row of those pie charts. Now, Bloomberg New Energy Finance's latest projection conservatively shows the already planned rapid renewable growth of India, solar in yellow, wind in blue. India's cheapest power source is generally onshore wind power right now. And those are planned to grow so fast, they're going to leave little room for growth in fossil fueled power generation. Actually, just growing the solar power a little faster in this decade could eliminate that temporary coal bulge officially projected for the 2030s and save a great deal of investment and illness. Now, renewables in 2020 supplied 90% of the world's total net additions of generating capacity. The International Energy Agency says that'll average 95% for the next few years, thanks to their powerful business case. You can see this, for example, in the United States, where the wholesale electricity prices in Aqua now widely exceed the average long-term fixed prices of wind in blue, solar power in orange. And in unsubsidized local markets, renewables at or below $30 a megawatt hour, the diamonds keep falling through $20. Their best prices are now $10 to $17. And they should pretty uniformly reach $10 in this decade per megawatt hour. And right now, renewables can beat fossil fuels in 96% of world markets, of course, including India and China. And that generally is true even if you include storage. So within a few years, that'll be 100%. Modern batteries are often cheaper then and are replacing gas turbine peakers. Now, modern renewables also scale up in a completely different way. Traditionally, we built giant cathedral-like power stations, each costing billions of dollars, taking many years to license and build. But now each year, similar investment can build a factory that produces each year thereafter enough solar cells to generate each year thereafter as much electricity as your cathedral will ultimately do. So solar power worldwide is scaling faster than mobile phones. But we're still told that only coal, gas, and nuclear stations can keep the lights on because they're 24/7, whilst wind power and photovoltaics are variable and hence supposedly unreliable. But variable doesn't mean unpredictable. Here's how accurately the French grid operator a decade ago in one stormy winter month forecast a day ahead the actual output of the country's wind farms. I'll bet they wish they could forecast demand that accurately. Indeed, we built the grid because no generator is 24/7. They all break. And when a giant plant fails, you lose 1 billion watts in milliseconds, often abruptly, often for weeks or months. So grids were built to manage this intermittence by backing up failed plants with working plants. And in exactly the same way, but often at lower cost, we can use the grid to manage the forecastable variations of solar and wind power by backing up those variable renewables with a portfolio of other renewables, all forecasted, integrated, and diversified by type and location. So in the state of Texas, with a tough climate, the grid has no big hydro dams. It's 99% isolated from the rest of the country. A 2050 summer week of expected loads could get much smaller and less peaky with profitably efficient use, but it's still 30-odd gigawatts. Now let's meet this with 86% on an annual basis from wind power and from solar cells, and 14% from dispatchable renewables you can use whenever you want, like geothermal, small hydro, solar thermal electric, and burning municipal, industrial, and agricultural wastes. My favorite would be obsolete energy studies. So this 100% renewable supply can then match the load, the dashed line, by putting the surplus electricity into two types of distributed storage that are worth buying anyway: ice storage air conditioning and smart bidirectional charging of electric autos, and then recovering that energy when needed and filling the last gaps with unobtrusively flexible demand. So then you have 100% renewable electricity every hour of the year with no bulk storage needed, and with only about 5% left over to make hydrogen or ammonia to decarbonize other sectors like heavy transport and industrial heat. So the economics should be excellent even at today's prices. You see, we have not just one way, bulk storage in magenta at the right, but about 10 carbon-free ways to keep the grid reliable and resilient as it becomes renewable. They're sketched here in rough order of increasing cost. Your actual costs will vary, but bulk storage comes last, not first. So we needn't wait for a storage miracle, though some are emerging, and the market's not waiting. Using our supply test, the first two boxes on the left, negawatts and flexawatts, are both about 3 times bigger than had been thought, and yet cheaper. So RMI's hourly simulation for the Texas power pool in summer 2050 systematically combined 8 types of demand response, timely use, that add up to about 3 times more than previously assumed, engaging all these sectors, and together they can conveniently cut the summer daily load range in half, save a fourth of the non-renewable capacity, make renewable energy a third more valuable, and pay back in about 5 months. Some grid operators are now doing such choreography every day.
Excuse me, sir. Can we have 2 minutes? Like we have some kind of technical issue.
Yes. What is happening?
Our projector gets disconnected from. That's technical glitch. We will solve it in 2 minutes. Please give us time.
So we should keep the connection as it is, and you're just plugging in the projector to come on again?
No, sir. Now it's completely fine, sir.
Now it's fine.
Yes, sir. We can continue.
Thank you. So some grid operators now do such choreography every day. So Germany, Britain, Ireland are half renewably powered now. Denmark expected to be 86% renewably powered 2021. They're probably in the 80s now, but it takes 2 years to report. Already they and some other European countries with modest or no hydropower are meeting about half to 3/4 of their total annual electricity needs from renewables. And yet they're adding no bulk storage, and they have superior reliability for Germany and Denmark, over 5 times as good as America. In the former East Germany is a 99.999% reliable distribution grid called 50 Hertz, which 2 years ago was 62% renewably powered. They're targeting 100% renewables, all reliably integrated 9 years from now. So as my colleague Clay Stranger says, the operators have learned to run these grids the way a conductor leads a symphony orchestra. No instrument plays all the time, but the ensemble continuously makes beautiful music. And some developing countries are moving even faster. At the end of 2018, coal-dependent Vietnam had 0.1 gigawatts of solar power. 2 years later, it had 16.5 gigawatts, the most in East Asia, a third more than their target for 2025, set just months before, and enough to generate a fourth of the nation's electricity once the grid catches up. 9 of that 16 gigawatts was on 100,000 rooftops or similar structures. That's equivalent in output to building half the nation's coal plants in 1 year. And 72% of those were installed just in the month of December, mostly in the last week of December, before a 9-month window closed for a juicy feed-in tariff. So coal, no longer getting automatic loan guarantees, added only 1.2 gigawatts in 2020. But offshore and onshore wind power are taking off now, also in Vietnam. And the World Bank says the offshore potential ranges up to 500 gigawatts. This revolution in Vietnam was almost all privately financed by independent producers under standard power purchase agreements. Internal battles continue, policies in flux, but now some neighbors like Indonesia, inspired by Vietnam's solar revolution, are accelerating their shifts from coal to renewables. Global rooftop solar reached about 59 gigawatts in 2021. That's 30% of world solar capacity, sped by an ambitious public-private partnership in China. Now, what if we combine the efficiency and the renewables revolutions? In 2011, admitting most of the integrative design opportunity, Arbai's business and design book, Reinventing Fire, it's in many languages, rigorously showed how to treble United States energy efficiency and quintuple its renewables by 2050, needing by then no oil, no coal, no nuclear energy, and at least a third less natural gas, while saving $5 trillion net present value. This assumes that all externalities like pollution and climate change are worth zero, a conservatively low estimate. And while growing GDP 2.6-fold, strengthening national security, and cutting fossil carbon emissions by 82 to 86%. Yet we found this would need no new inventions and no national laws, but with smart state and city policies, it could be led by business for profit. How's that vision doing in the marketplace? Well, the first 11 years of that 40-year journey are pretty well on track, green actual versus blue proposed, I think largely because the private sector smells the $5 trillion on the table. That's exactly what should be happening. These best buys are also the most effective solutions to big global problems that hazard every country's security and prosperity. And if you like any of these outcomes of reinventing fire, you can support the transition without having to like every outcome or agree which outcome is most important. Focusing on outcomes, not motives, can turn gridlock and conflict into a unifying solution to our common energy challenge. Stimulated by those US findings at the G20 7 years ago, the Energy Research Institute of China's National Development Reform Commission published its roadmap for China's energy revolution, detailing how China can save over $3 trillion, run a 7-fold bigger economy in 2050 than in 2010, but using today's energy 7 times more productively, emit 42% less carbon, burn 80% less coal, and get 13 times more economic output from each ton of fossil carbon. This roadmap strongly informed the 13th five-year plan, whose energy authors were our steering committee, and the 14th plan continues this line. I wonder what this would look like for India. Maybe you should figure out. Extrapolating these on-track US, adopted Chinese, and similar European findings to the other half of the world, including India, could achieve, we found, a 2-degree climate target about $18 trillion cheaper than business as usual. And then reinvesting some of that in natural systems carbon removal could get us to 1.5 degrees, with trillions of dollars left over and huge progress on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Making climate protection not costly but profitable should also simplify the politics. Here's the bigger picture. The climate science models have conservatively understated the speed and runaway potential of climate change. But the climate choice models, conservatively understated by at least as much what we can do to stop or reverse climate change. Offsetting those two biases, what Jeremy Grantham calls the race of our lives is very much on. Despair and complacency are equally unwarranted. Savings in renewables have together put us roughly on track for 2 degrees already, and to redouble that pace for 1.5 degrees, we can now enlist a very powerful ally, the dynamics of financial capital markets. You see, feeling the threat, incumbent energy suppliers have understandably focused on the need for energy price to exceed cost. But many seem to forget the other part of the business condition, that value must exceed price. If competitors offer a superior value proposition and run off with your revenues, it doesn't matter if you can profitably sell what your ex-customers are no longer buying. And these shifts can occur with stunning speed. In 1900, in Manhattan, New York, you had to look hard for the first car. Anybody see it? There it is. But 13 years later, you had to look even harder to find the last horse. Ford's Model T got 62% cheaper in 13 years. Car-owning households soared from 8% to about 60% in just 10 years. 3/4 financed by a General Motors and DuPont innovation called car loans. Today, our solar power modules just got 80% cheaper in 5 years. 3/4 of our rooftop solar is innovatively financed. Ford's and Edison's industries are merging to eat Rockefeller's industry. Thus, the pace of transformation is not set by incumbents, but by insurgents who are not inhibited by legacy assets or old business models and cultures. Moreover, investors flee even before customers do, because capital markets keenly sniff out disruption. And once they think you're in or even headed for the toaster, they don't wait for the toast to get done before they decapitalize you and invest in your successors. So trillions of dollars have prudently fled the fossil fuel industries as they hemorrhage capital, talent, and political clout. In late 2021, the world's top 16 listed hydrocarbon companies combined were worth less than Apple. Now, Carbon Tracker explains this brutal logic of the capital markets in this way. They say any fast-growing challenger will rapidly take all the growth in a slow-growing market. And as a rule of thumb, incumbent sales will peak when the challenger gets to around 3% market share, as in these historic examples. That's because most investors seek growth, not mere size. So they try to sell just before sales peak and stagnation strands assets and competition drops prices. So that's why the coal industry by 2020 had lost 3/4 of its global market value, 99% of its US market value. And until temporarily interrupted by Putin's war, that collapsing value is spreading to oil and heading next for gas. Once the dust settles, those fundamentals will reemerge because the dynamics of peak and decline continue. Peak nuclear power, peak coal use, peak auto sales, peak fossil power have already happened. Fueled autos are now in their 5th or I think 6th year of shrinking sales because electric cars took more than all the growth. The International Energy Agency says the 2020 pandemic slump undid energy's previous 4 years and CO2's previous 9 years of growth. Yet renewable power grew 45% faster. And it's now adding over 300 gigawatts every year and growing another 50 or 100 gigawatts beyond that every year. So as demand recovers, renewables are expanding enough to supply any future growth. And that tips fossil fuels into permanent decline. Therefore, peak oil, peak fossil fuels, and their peak CO2 emissions probably already happened in 2019. Now, to help you visualize peaking and decline, here's a respected 2020 forecast showing the bottom 3 wedges, coal in black, oil in red, gas in gray, and how they stagnated before the pandemic. In 2020, that economic shock shriveled fossil fuels, whilst renewables, mainly wind and blue and solar and yellow, grabbed the capital. Now, total energy use might still rise a little bit, though so far it's still below 2019 levels, but wind and solar are supplying more than all the growth. They're turning fossil fuels, coal and oil and gas, into sunset industries whose capital is fleeing to efficiency and renewables. And those reinforce each other because efficient use makes renewables gain share faster, and both those outcomes outcompete fossil fuels sooner. These trends continued in 2021, in 2022, and then fossil fuel price spikes strongly reinforced them in 22. So today we have what amounts to a global carbon tax far larger than economists wanted to help protect the climate. It was done the wrong way. It's going to the wrong place. It's causing much hardship, but it will speed the journey off fossil fuels. So here's the recent good news. Putin just blew up the fossil fuel era. This conceptual sketch shows how the pandemic shifted the world's fossil fuel trajectory to a bumpy plateau to be followed by a gentle decline. But now Putin's war has triggered a European and American-led response, likely to trigger a steep decline like the plummeting blue curve. So Putin has set inexorably in motion all the outcomes he dreaded, but he's also sped the end of the fossil fuels that underpin his power. If we grasp this unique opportunity, as Europe is doing with impressive focus and resolve, then Ukraine's agony will not have been in vain. In fact, 2022 is turning out to be the turning point for the global fossil fuel system. Spiking prices and new policies surged renewables and efficiency, and also focused on building secure renewable supply chains. That squeezed fossil fuel use between efficiency and renewables. That view has now been adopted by the International Energy Agency in its latest overview. It shows several trajectories of decline in fossil fuel use, and I've overlaid them here with the purple projection from the respected Norwegian analytic firm Rystad. The green curve shows business as usual, but it unrealistically assumes that design and technology and policy in efficiency or renewables suddenly stop improving forever. They just get frozen. The blue or rather the red curve assumes that policymakers will do what they say, but it leaves out important dynamics in markets and innovation. The blue or net zero curve at the bottom is the most realistic now. It shows how the so-called energy trilemma is already solved because renewables are cheaper, cleaner, local, climate safe, secure, and a big driver of jobs, prosperity, and development. I hope you will help India to do its part by leading as strongly in energy efficiency as it does in renewables. One last thought. This global energy transformation is not just fundamental, it's elemental. The first industrial revolution was the age of carbon, creating our prosperity and the world's mightiest industries from coal and oil and gas. But now that obsolete age of carbon is giving way to the modern age of silicon. Silicon microchips, telecoms, and software turn people from isolated to networked, systems from dumb to smart, grids from analog to digital, and potentially from dirigiste to democratized. Silicon power electronics make electricity interconvertible and precisely applicable, replacing fiery molecules with obedient electrons. And silicon solar cells enable the ascent of energy from mining the fires of hell to harvesting the breath and radiance of heaven. So our responsibility, our opportunity is to help enable the new energy system, not protect the old one, to build back better, to move fast and fix things, so the global energy transformation can move at the pace and cost of design and of software, not of infrastructure. and can be not constrained by the inertia of incumbents, but sped by the ambition of insurgents, like, I dare say, many of you. Thank you all for your good work and your kind attention. And now I'm keen to hear what's on your minds.
It was a great session, sir. Major, all the questions were covered in your session. Like the questions were from pandemic situation, different type of energy resources like nuclear, thermal. You covered all of them. Like today's growth, after 50 years growth, and what would be the like if we follows the same, then India can be a better place to live, and which will be the environment friendly. That all the questions were covered in the session itself. Now I would like to call Professor and Dr. UD Patel, our head of Civil Engineering Department, to greet you.
Please.
Namaskar, Dr. Lovins. It was treasure to listen to you. It was wonderful. We got so much of inputs, what is going on in the world energy scenario. And you may be knowing that India is doing great in terms of solar power. We are increasing our total energy and the input of solar energy in the total energy like anything. In last few years, it has increased like anything. I tell you my own experience. I have got my own rooftop solar system at my home, and for last 1 year or so, I'm not paying any energy bill. On the contrary, I'm generating more than what I am using.
So you run the meter backwards more than forwards. We do that also.
Yeah. So that is what we are trying to address. So. And very rightly, you mentioned one thing very importantly, which was, which caught my attention so badly, was this, that we are in this race against the destruction and survival. And we are the parties to that. Of course, we all human, and we have to win this race in the favor of survival. Otherwise, next 30, 40 years are going to be very, critical. Very problematic. So I'm really very much thankful to you on behalf of the Civil Engineering Department, the students of Faculty of Technology, for your nice presentation and your time to the students. We would love to be in touch with you, whichever way we can be. And we wish that you be on such platforms again and again, so to guide our students and all of us. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure, sir. I teach half-time at Stanford, a course called Extreme Energy Efficiency. I didn't pick the name, and I wouldn't say it's extreme. It's just no longer inadequate. But I have had an invitation from IIT Madras to come do a kind of Teach the Teachers seminar to spread the integrative design work around India. And they would put it up on the network that serves over 3,000 institutes of technical higher education in India. And you graduate, what, 1 million engineers a year or something like that?
Yeah.
So I think this is a very exciting prospect. And of course, at your great university, you have such a depth of talent. I think this would be a very good thing to do, and I'm hoping to organize it this year.
Yeah, so that would be wonderful. I think in that way also India would benefit from your knowledge, no, definitely.
And I would expect to learn a lot.
Yeah. No, it is always a mutual process. Let's see. Definitely.
Did anything surprise you in my talk?
Actually the data which you presented, there were many things which were surprising to us. One of the things which you said that Putin has put an end to the power of fossil fuel by this war against Ukraine. Yeah, that was, but I mean, still they keep supplying crude. It is still pumping money to Russia. You know,
And India is buying a great deal of that fuel, that oil, actually.
Yeah.
And it's hard to fault India in a way because they're getting it at such a steep discount.
That's true.
But it's dirty oil, it's dirty money, it's killing people. So I hope you'll think more about that.
Yeah, we actually this debate is going on at present. You're absolutely right. But then the point is, we are in such a phase of economy that if we don't do this, it will be very difficult for our country to survive in terms of economical crisis. So we need this cheap fuel at present to start with. But we are not the only one who are buying this, definitely. There are many other countries who are still buying. But you are right. I mean, that's so if it happens that way, that it will trigger, countries and the think tank to think in this way, that we have to now completely come out of our reliance on the fossil fuels. Then only it will lead to a great future.
And I'm very pleased to add that RMI, which I co-founded 40 years ago, has an independent affiliate in Delhi, led by Akshay Gate, and they are supporting Niti Aayog and other elements of government of India, and also at a state and municipal level, helping governments to try many of the things I described, and supporting the evolution of Indian energy and development strategy. And I'm very pleased that we're able to help in that way.
Mm-hmm. Right. So that would help a lot. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So
do we have to start?
no, that would be another look.
Okay.
We will just have to testimonial slide for footprints.
Okay.
That we have to ask.
You can do it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So nice meeting you, Dr. Lovins, on this platform. I hope we'll have more such chances to interact. Certainly.
Thank you, sir.
Namaskar.
I welcome the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lovins. Now I would like to ask you some sort of your experience and your testimonial for our footprints event.
I'm sorry, my experience and what?
The whole Taleidoscope segment, your experience as our guest lecturer, our prominent guest lecturer.
Oh, well, I've enjoyed the opportunity. I had hoped there might be some interaction directly with the students. Have their questions been collected, or can any of them join us?
No, sir. Your session would like very good session. So there are no such questions left with us, because we have circulated all the Google form over the university, but most of the questions were answered in the session.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad it was relatively comprehensive. And I will send you a PDF. I think it may take me a day or two because I need to make a few small corrections I noticed as I went. I'll send you a PDF of my slides with presenter notes, and you are free to share those around your university. And I hope that will help people perhaps go over some of the material that may have gone by a bit fast because the information density was rather high.
Okay, sir. That would be so grateful for you. I would like to ask one question. Do you support any ideologies of young environmentalists like Greta Thunberg, or how
Like
these
what?
young minds are bringing change?
I'm sorry, I missed. Like what?
do you support any ideologies of young environmentalists like Greta Thunberg?
Greta Thunberg. Well, I think she's made a remarkable contribution to waking up some of her elders, and she is usually well informed and passionate and articulate. So I admire her contribution. We might not agree on every detail, but
Basic
I-
idea you are
it's
supporting.
a very constructive contribution.
Okay, definitely, sir, definitely. Any wishes to Footprints 23?
Say again.
Any wishes to Footprints 23? Like we were doing the event in 3, 4th, and 5th of March offline in Baroda.
I'm not understanding you. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's not a problem. Okay. Okay, thank you, sir. Hope we will be connecting in further more years, and hoping for your offline guest speaking in MS University in Baroda.
Thank you. I hope to get there one day.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Have a good day to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.